Does this show up as reverse or on the actual screen? Is it flipped over?
No, I can read it, and we are live.
Great. Welcome to Pentacle Magic. This is Selena Fox, and I'm Senior Minister and High Priestess at Circle Sanctuary Nature Preserve. It's wonderful to be with all of you here at Puget Sound Pagan Tribe. In this workshop, I'm going to talk about the Pinnacle, a bit about its lore and its history, and some ways to work with it. Today, September 25th, has a connection with Pentacle Magic. It actually is a date in which a Wiccan soldier serving in Afghanistan was killed in action. And I have an actual image of his face here on this t-shirt. His name's Sergeant Patrick Stewart. And so I'd like to begin this workshop by honoring Sergeant Patrick Stewart, his life, his service, and his sacrifice. September 25th, 2005, he and 4 crewmates were shot from the sky by enemy fire in Afghanistan. And his widow, Roberta, decided after several months, she was at a place in her grief that she could go ahead and order his memorial plaque at the local federal Veterans Cemetery in Fernley, Nevada. She arrives at the cemetery office and says, okay, I'm ready for my husband's plaque. I'm gonna order it. And he's Wiccan. He had it on his dog tags, and we want the Pinnacle on it. And the cemetery director said, no can do. You've got 2 choices. You can get the plaque without the Pinnacle, or you can wait until it gets added to the list. Well, part of my work doing ministry through Circle Sanctuary, which is located in southwestern Wisconsin, USA, but has members all across the US and in other countries. Part of the work that I do is to provide some support for our members who are going through grief. And I know that when you are at a place in your grieving process that you are really ready to move to the next step and you aren't able to do it, it can complicate your grief. And such was the case with Roberta. She was not yet a member of Circle Sanctuary, but she was part of the larger network of pagans that we provide religious freedom services as well as information and educational services for, and have since the 1970s. 1974 is when we began. I won't tell the whole story of the Pinnacle Quest, but the good news is that a lot of people came together, and an artist from Minnesota actually created this. And you'll notice there's a pinnacle in the background. It took rallies, interface with the press, working with attorneys from Americans United for Separation of Church and State, which does First Amendment rights work, and they're headquartered in Washington, D.C. A whole variety of things came together. And the good news is on April 23rd in 2007, the Pinnacle the encircled five-pointed star was added to the list of emblems of belief that can be included on grave markers that the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs makes available to families of those who have died, not just those killed in action, but those who have served, have retired, and then at the end of their life, they also are entitled to a grave marker. Many people in the USA were aware of the diversity within the US military, but this particular quest, which was really a 10-year journey, even before Sergeant Patrick Stewart had died, a number of pagan organizations had said, this is our symbol, we want it on the list, but the Department of Veterans Affairs just hadn't added it. Well, the good news is that it did get added, and as a result of the immense amount of publicity that happened many years ago in this case, more people in the USA not only learned about what a pinnacle was, but what the Wiccan religion and paganism is in all of its diversity. So Sergeant Patrick Stewart, we honor you. Roberta Stewart, thank you for taking your story public. Everyone involved with the Lady Liberty League, which is the pagan civil rights service that Circle Sanctuary does, and for all the pagans, as well as people of other beliefs and traditions who joined in this quest that met with success, we give thanks. Earth, air, fire, water, spirit encircled. Earth, air, fire, water, spirit encircled. Earth, air, fire, water, spirit encircled. The five-pointed star encircled the pinnacle is an ancient symbol. The name Pentacle has its roots in the ancient Greek, penta, meaning five. In Latin, the Pentacolicum also has that penta root, meaning five. And in France, the word evolved in the French language as Pentacle, P-E-N-T-A-C-O-L, have a reference going back to 1328 for that. But today, many pagans just call it a pentacle. Now there's the pentagram, also with the same root word penta, and a pentagram is the five-pointed star part. The pentacle is that with the five-pointed star that's encircled. When did pentacles first come into being? Well, many symbols of nature religions and nature spirituality traditions take inspiration from nature. The starfish cutting an apple horizontally, you'll find five seeds forming a star within that circle. You will have sand dollars, a number of flowers, including cherry blossoms, have pentacles in them. So we know the five-pointed star and the five-pointed star encircled is part of the larger natural world that we are part of. Some say that the pentacle began in Mesopotamia 8,000 years ago. And some say that it was actually connected with five visible planets that were known at that time: Jupiter, Mercury, Mars, Saturn, and Venus. A pinnacle image was found on a jar dated to over 3000 BCE in ancient Egypt. But most of the lore and the traditions connected with the pinnacle are rooted in the Pythagorean pagan mystery tradition, going back into ancient pagan Greece. There are some coins that have survived from antiquity that have pentacles on them. And the tradition of Pythagoras, which many people know because of the 3-4-5 triangle in geometry that we learn about as we do our schooling. Same Pythagoras. But in addition to his contributions to mathematics, he was very involved with larger views of the rhythms and the patterns of the universe. In his tradition, those who were his students and adherents used the 5-pointed star as a symbol connecting them with the goddess of health and well-being, Hygeia. And those who were part of the Pythagorean form of pagan tradition would use the 5-pointed star as a way of identifying themselves to each other. And clearly, that is still happening amongst pagans of many paths who have the pinnacle as a symbol representing their own spiritual paths. As Christianity became dominant in Europe, the pinnacle was such an important symbol, it became Christianized, as were so many sacred sites and holidays and other things rooted in paganism. Rather than extinguishing them or attempting to do so, they took on a Christian guise. And depending on who you talk with, in Christianity, the 5 points of the star connect with the 5 wounds of Christ, the 5 joys of Mary, the 5 senses, the Bethlehem star. And at Yuletide, you will find not only pagans putting 5-pointed stars atop their Yule tree or holiday tree, but many people who are either celebrating secular Christmas or Christian Christmas also use the 5-pointed star as part of their celebrations. In ancient Judaism, the 5-pointed star encircled was linked with King Solomon. And you may have heard the phrase Solomon's seal. Well, that's a pinnacle. In the Middle Ages, as ancient pagan traditions were interwoven with Jewish mysticism and Christian magic, pinnacles were part of the emerging Hermetic tradition. And I'd like to just make a distinction between the pinnacle that I'm focusing on today, and that word pinnacle was actually used in a more universalist term during the Middle Ages to be a word signifying talisman. So that would be the second Venus pinnacle actually had a 5-pointed star image, as did the first Mercury pinnacle. But there were a lot of other pinnacles that didn't have 5-pointed stars connected with them at all. So I just mentioned that in the event you encounter other types of pinnacles in your research. Working with the most common pinnacle, which is the 5-pointed star encircled. And the pinnacle, whether it's right side up or upside down, for hundreds and hundreds, thousands of years, was actually considered a positive symbol, something beneficial, something that was connected with well-being and balance. However, it started changing as some magical traditions saw the pinnacle with one point up being something that was considered positive, and with one point down being something malevolent. And because of some of that take, that's caused some real confusion and complexity regarding the pinnacle and how it is used by people today. There are some people involved in some criminal activity that take the Christian cross and turn it upside down, take the pinnacle with one point up and turn it upside down, is all part of a practice. But if you see an upside down pinnacle, it doesn't necessarily mean that somebody's involved in something that's a form of selfishness or something that has a malevolent dimension to it. The Eastern Star, which is part of Scottish Rite Masonry, has their pinnacles upside down. And in some Welsh traditions of the Wiccan religion, the upside down pinnacle is actually a representation of the second degree in the studies for priest and priestess craft. So Pentacles started going into many parts of the planet as migration happened and as the printing press came into being. Some of my own ancestry goes back to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and what's known as Pennsylvania Dutch culture and German-speaking Swiss. And there's a whole tradition of painting geometrical images on barns, barn art. And the pinnacle is one of the forms. Now, this is a contemporary pagan pinnacle that goes by the name of a hex sign. Hex sign, actually, hex means six. And a lot of the geometric images in barn art actually have 6 points instead of 5 points, but there are 5-pointed stars. This is a pinnacle created for home blessing. It's known as the Oak Hex, and it's a contemporary rendition that I encountered years ago in one of my speaking travels in California. So home blessing is something that we'll talk about in a few minutes, and certainly having a pentacle sign at your home to help bless your home can be fabulous. Well, pentacles now are appearing across different religious traditions. The Baha'i religion has the pinnacle as one of its symbols. You'll find them in Mormon temples, and you'll find images on flags. There's a religion in Senegal, West Africa, that has the pinnacle as a symbol of the supreme deity. And in the US military, pinnacles, often they're upside down when they're in the form of a Medal of Honor. And yes, the US Medal of Honor that came in the 1860s had pinnacles as part of it. Many people know about pinnacles because they do tarot work. And this is from Pamela Coleman Smith, the writer Waite Tarot, actually from my very first deck that I got back in 1969. This is the Ace of Pentacles. And so you'll find some people who are familiar with pinnacles from that tradition. And there is a band back in the late 60s, early 1970s that I truly loved, and you can find some of their music and videos on YouTube. They had an album called Solomon's Seal in 1972, and the name of the band is Pentacle. So those are just some of the ways that Pentacles have made their way through different cultures and through the ages. So Pentacles, if you want to work with a Pentacle, what are some ways to do that? I think how we started this workshop is where I'll start in terms of spiritual identification. And I'm wearing the Pentacle around my neck, not only as a kind of amulet for blessing and balance and well-being, but it is a symbol of the nature spirituality path that I practice, which weaves together some old forms of paganism as well as contemporary forms. The Wiccan religion, which is a form of contemporary paganism, has the pentacle as one of its symbols. And for some people, that is the symbol that one wears as religious identification. Now, one may wear it openly in the form of a necklace or a ring. Some may have a tattoo. Some may have a pentacle as part of clothing that one wears. Some who would prefer their spiritual identification to not be visible to everyone may wear a pentacle in a different way. And a tattoo that's not visible, that's somewhere under clothing, or what some people find helpful is to actually anoint oneself with some oil or sacred water as a way of carrying that pentacle with oneself. The Lady Liberty League, which I and others helped found back in 1985 to stand up for pagan rights, have actually had a variety of cases involving pentacles. The Pinnacle Quest case, which is what Sergeant Patrick Stewart's widow was very active with me and thousands of other people, was the most visible. However, there was a case of a high school senior at a public high school in Michigan, her name Crystal Cypherly, who wanted to wear her pentacle at high school just as her classmates were wearing Christian crosses. We had to lawyer up for that one too. The American Civil Liberties Union in Michigan took on that case. We provided some expert witness testimony and other support, and I'm happy to report that she was able to win her case. Why was the pentacle denied her? Well, there are some criminal gangs that use a variety of symbols for their own identifiers. However, they were letting the gangs using Christian crosses, knowing there is the cross that was used by gangs, they were letting Christians at the school wear the crosses, regardless of whether it was any kind of gang connection, which there weren't. And so when you're in the public square, it's all or nothing. You really do need to accommodate all religions in a fair and equal way. Of course, we're in politically turbulent times, and that can take some extra problem solving. I'm happy to report, though, the Pinnacle cases we've been involved in have met with success. And as a result of the Pinnacle Quest and its success in 2007, not only are there more than 200 grave markers at public and private cemeteries across the USA with pentacles on them, but there's a lot more people now aware that this is a symbol that should be respected and treated in the same way as other emblems of belief. And so the good news is some progress has been made as a result of the quest to have our choice of having spiritual identification visible. Sacred space, that could be a fabulous way of working with a pentacle. Now you can create a pentacle in terms of facing each of the sacred directions, if you are from a tradition that does that. So one way of having a pentacle as part of blessing sacred space is to have that pentacle usually drawn with a wand, drawn at each of the four quarters. And I'm from a tradition that not only works with the compass points, but the quarter, the realm of above and below and center. And actually in center, there's within and around. Another way to work with a pentacle is in the form of an altar cloth. And I give thanks to author Dane McCoy, who gifted me with this several years ago before her death. And having a pentacle altar cloth is a way of not only blessing one's altar and decorating one's ritual space, but it is a reminder of our relationship with the elements of nature. During the Pinnacle quest, I had and still have an actual rug that has a pentacle, a round rug with a pentacle on it. And I did rituals standing in the center of the rug as I worked on doing spiritual work to support the activist work and the legal work we were doing to accomplish that quest. One of the oldest ways that pentacles were used was being worn around the neck. Now, most people, it takes the form of a necklace, or some people may have some type of amulet and it's engraved in the amulet. When I was doing my public relations campaign about pentacles, I actually wore what I call my pinnacle bling. I took a wind chime that one of our priestesses had given me and actually removed some of the little bells and things, and it was a very large pinnacle. So throughout the Pinnacle quest, to make my point, I wore a really large pinnacle because it was convenient to show the image as I was being interviewed and as Roberta was being interviewed in our various journeys across the US and in media. How do you work with it as an amulet? Most people will do some type of blessing of it before using it as an amulet. That could, I like blessing my ritual tools and sacred jewelry with different forms of the five elements. Some salt or dried herbs for earth, incense for air, candle flame for fire, water for water, and a clear quartz crystal for spirit. And another thing that one can do, in addition to consecrating a pentacle that you're going to be wearing, is to then focus on what is the focus of this. Am I wearing it for well-being? Is it a healing amulet? Is it for protection? Or is it a combination? Is it for balance? We've just had equinox and a time where we have a balance of daytime and nighttime in terms of numbers of hours, which have the sun up and the sun down. So balance is another important quality that can be used in working with a pinnacle as an amulet. Another way to work with a pinnacle is by carving it or inscribing it. I have an example of that. This is a mortar and pestle, and it has pinnacles on several. It actually has triple pinnacles on it. And some people like to have a pinnacle engraved on important ceremonial tools as a symbol of spirituality and as a symbol of balance. In some cases, and here's an example of a pinnacle that is made of ceramic, it's carved into the pottery before it is fired. And some incorporate the pinnacle as part of a design, such as this image of the pinnacle glowing in the form of a sun. If you are creating a paper talisman, you may want to have a pinnacle at its center and to create other images around that. Fold up the piece of paper and put it into a sachet or an amulet bag as a way of carrying it with you or having it on your altar where it's doing its work. Another way to work with a pinnacle is through posture and to actually take the pentacle stand. So having your feet more than shoulder width apart, having your arms straight out, and literally you become a living five-pointed star, envisioning a great circle of light connecting your head, each of your hands, and each of your feet. Now, using this particular form of ritual posture is really a powerful way with protection and strength when you need to have more of that. So standing with your hands out, looking forward with your legs spread as the other 2 points of the star, experiencing yourself as a living star within a great disk of light. Taking that stance, experiencing the power of protection, coming up within you and being around you. That's one way of doing a pentacle for shielding and for protection. You also can take that same stance, and what I like to do with this version of it is to stand with your arms by your side and then slowly start forming the star and then moving one's hands up and down as you actually experience the great circle connecting the different points of your living pentacle. And as you do that, experiencing that you are balancing the earth, the air, the fire, the water, the spirit into a sacred whole. So you can use that as a form of ritual gesture, ritual stance, ritual movement. There is another way to move with the pentacle, and that's with ritual gesture. Now, if you have a wand that you like, you can trace the pentacle that, and people draw the pentacle in different ways. But what I like to do is start at the top, come down, go across, and do the 5-pointed star, and then go around several times, and then right through the center, putting that pinnacle image that I have inscribed in the air at each of the compass points of the sacred circle, letting that be in place. Now, one way of putting a pinnacle in each direction is to envision a color associated with those directions. In the circle craft tradition that I practice, green in the north, golden yellow in the east, red in the south, blue in the west, and in the center, the rainbow colors in a brilliant white light. Different traditions will work with pentacles and directions in different ways. Some may take on a particular color, such as silver or gold, or spirit blue light, and use that in all the different directions. As you inscribe something with a pentacle, you can use that to focus your attention and intention in doing work. So if you're going to do some candle magic and you have a candle that you have created for that purpose, and you want to use a pentacle as part of energizing that, then I like actually using a nail about this long, couple inches long, with a very sharp point, and we'll actually use a nail to carve into the wax of the candle. So that's a way of also working with sacred gesture for inscribing. And then you may want to do a blessing with your whole arm and hand. And you don't actually need a wand. You can let your arm be that way. Not only for casting a circle, but if you're doing blessings on a space, a place, individuals in need of healing, that's another way to work with it. I like working with pentacles for home blessing, and not only having an image, and this is, I have several pentacles at my home. Traditionally, you put the pentacle above your main threshold or near it, but some people like to actually have pentacles of different shapes and sizes in different parts of the home, each with their own special blessing. And pentacles can be very basic. In fact, you may find some for blessing your home that wouldn't necessarily give your spirituality away. This is a trivet that I got many years ago, and having a trivet hanging in your kitchen, you don't have to out yourself. It's right there unless you choose to do so. One of my favorite home blessing pentacles is something that I have on my main altar, and this is a very elaborately carved and wood-burned pinnacle platter. And some use a kind of resin, cast resin, for pentacles. So one of the great things about pentacles becoming more available is that there's lots to choose from online and in various shops, and a variety of people are using them in different ways. You can use a pinnacle image in your home as a kind of home guardian, having it be energized to watch over, to protect, and to bless your home. You may take some blessed water and go and dip your index finger in it and actually put pinnacle images on each of the windows of your home, depending on your tradition for home blessing. So another way of working with pentacles for home blessing. Well, the pinnacle, in addition to having all 5 elements connected with it, can specifically be a kind of earth image. And we not only have that within the 4 suits of the tarot, the pinnacle representing earth in most traditions. It's sometimes known as the coin suit, but this is a symbol of earth. And the element earth can be very powerful for manifestation. You may want to take some type of pinnacle image, have it on your altar, write what you are seeking to manifest. Put that on your pinnacle dish, and to energize it that way. Some people put a candle on top of that and burn the candle as part of it. There's a number of different ways that you can work with it as an earth symbol. Some people have a copper pinnacle to represent the pinnacle as an earth symbol. Some use ceramic, some use other types of metal, or wood is also traditional. And salt or some other substance of earth is placed on it to represent the earth element and be an earth tool within a ritual setting. Healing can be a really powerful use for pentacles, not only doing blessings over a person's body, anointing them, or if they're open to this, actually going over the whole body with a very large pinnacle representing the balance of mind, body, emotions, energy, and soul, in the context of being in harmony with self and the greater circle of life of which we're all part. Some will create charms using pinnacles for healing and well-being. Some will use the pinnacle as a means for bringing healing to themselves. And I'm going to guide you a very short working with a pinnacle in that way. The next few moments of quiet, I invite you to imagine a pinnacle of green light before you, and that light flows into your body and blesses your body with well-being. And the beautiful green pinnacle of light now turns into a golden yellow pinnacle. And rays of that light come to you, blessing your thoughts, your thinking, your mind, your intellect, your cognition with good mental health and well-being. The golden yellow pinnacle turns into a vibrant red, and the red light flows into your being, energizing you, enhancing your immune system, your stamina, blessing you with creativity, blessing your action self, your doing self, your energetic self with healing and well-being. And the beautiful red pinnacle of light turns into a blue pentacle of light. And as those light rays come into you, you experience cleansing and nurturing, balancing of your emotions, of your moods, of your feelings. Taking in what you need for healing and well-being. And the pinnacle before you now turns into a vibrant, radiant light, all spectrum colors of the rainbow in perfect harmony, red and orange and yellow, green and blue and indigo, purple, violet, all flowing together with a radiance, letting that flow into your whole being, the balance of radiance within your own deep self, your soul, experiencing it in you and around you. And now imagining you're in the center of this beautiful pinnacle. And you feel balanced and well. So be it. And as we return to a more waking state of consciousness, an opportunity to celebrate the pinnacle. Pinnacle of sacred light, imbue us with blessings bright. Pinnacle of sacred light, imbue us with blessings bright. Pinnacle of sacred light, imbue us with blessings bright. So pentacles can be used in so many different ways, as ritual objects, as ritual gestures, as a way of identifying ourselves with one or more paths of pagan spirituality that have that as a symbol. Pentacles can also be used as a portal, as a mandala, as a focus for meditation. Pentacles can be used to energize. Pentacles can connect us with the element earth as well as all of the elements. Pentacles can be healing. Pentacles can be revealing. Pentacles can bring wellness to us and enrich our life. And I hope that you will have wonderful experiences as you go forth from this workshop in a few minutes, carrying with you hopefully some new ideas and some variations of ways of working with pentacles. We have a few moments left, and so I invite those of you who would like to share comments, share images, ideas, experiences. I'm looking at the chat, and greetings to you from El Salvador in Central America. Really good to connect with you, and good to connect with all of you watching live on YouTube and Facebook, and all of you who are here in the Zoom room. So I'm wondering if there's any questions or comments. What's something that you may want to take into your day-to-day life involving Pentacle Magic? And I'll see if any other comments pop up in the chat. Or those of you who are watching, if you have a question you want to ask, I invite you to go ahead and do that. Something that you might find as a fun thing to do is to use what I call Pinnacle Mindset. Start a day out, spend a few moments looking at a pinnacle, and then during the course of your day, see if you see any pinnacles in nature or in social media or having things come to mind. Pinnacles can pop up in a variety of different places. A number of years ago, in the early days of being in the realm of priestess work, and this back to the 70s, I took the chorus of an old English folk song and did a chorus, a chant. It's called Hey Ho Pinnacle, Pentagram Glow. Well, I have changed it for today's workshop, and I thought I would share this with you. A way of taking something old and recycling it. Hey ho, Pentacle glow in north and east and south and west, above, below, and center. Hey ho, Pentacle glow in north and east and south and west, above, below, and center. Hey ho, Pentacle glow. Well, may Pentacle Magic be in you and with you. May you glow with the light of well-being and joy. And may your work with Pentacles now and in times to come enrich your magic, enrich your spiritual life, and bring healing and well-being to the greater world of which we are a part. Thank you all for being part of Pinnacle Magic. If you'd like more information, you can find me on the web at circlesanctuary.org and my main Facebook page, Selena Fox Updates. You'll actually see a couple different images there. I do podcasts on Sunday afternoons. It's Nature Mystic, and I've been podcasting now for 10 years. So this is kind of my encore podcast show, Nature Mystic, on Sunday afternoons at 6 p.m. Central Time, which is 4 p.m. Pacific Time. And I do new workshops every Wednesday night, which is Nature Spirituality, and live stream them on CSNP, that's Circle Sanctuary Network Podcast, which is part of Blog Talk Radio. So it's online radio, but I also live stream them to my Selena Fox Updates Facebook page. Yes, I'm on YouTube, as is Circle Sanctuary, and you can find out more about the various things I do online, as well as other people in our community. And it's so wonderful to be part of this pagan pride. Side by side, we celebrate pagan pride. Continued well wishes to all of you, and to Puget Sound Pagan Pride Day. And Nina, thank you for helping me with the Zoom moderation and checking on things. Well wishes to you and Lawrence and everyone with Pagan Pride there.
Thank you. And you as well. Thank you so very much for spending your time with us this afternoon.
Well, it is good to be here, and stay tuned for more. There will be a variety of different workshops coming up. Be safe, be well, be wise, have fun, and